Hello, everybody. Welcome along. My name is Benjamin Bloom. This is the Benjamin Bloom Football Channel. Please leave your bias at the door and join us for the second video of the morning, because there were two managerial sackings, firings, whatever, last night, and Neil Warnock has left Middlesbrough by mutual consent. It broke, as I tweeted yesterday. I was on the road a long time, so I was always going to go to bed and deal with this morning. But it broke last night that Warnock had left by mutual consent, and that's always an important distinction to make in these matters rather than a firing or a sacking. And then not long after, to be fair, I think some of the nationals had gone with Warnock will be done by the end of the day in the morning. But then big links now with Chris Wilder. Even a day was given by one of the journalists who'll be coming in on Tuesday at Middlesbrough. So we will speak about that. We've got to speak about Warnock first. It was actually very much like the Norwich situation. This decision was obviously made prior to yesterday, and no knee-jerk reactions after a good result, frankly. West Brom are the best team in the league at home, and Boro went there and got a draw. But it had been, I don't want to say a bad run. It had been an erratic run under Warnock. I think that's the first draw in a while, and lots of games going 2-0 either way. Boro are in a terrible position. They're in 14th. They're 4 points off the playoffs, but unfortunately in the Championship, 4 points is 8 places, and there's a lot of traffic in the way, and no one would frankly know better how to get through that than perhaps Neil Warnock, who broke the record, didn't he, for a 1,602nd match, I think was the right number, in losing to Luton in the midweek. Look, we don't need to tell you about Mr. Warnock's credentials. He's in his early 70s now, and I think it's 8 promotions. Possibly one of them was from non-league up to Division 4, as it would have been then. Could be wrong about that, but just an incredible managerial career. And you wonder now, has it come to an end? I mean, he jokes himself that he's retired 18 times already, but just a sensational career, and really the king of the Championship in terms of, even in recent times, the past decade, taking up QPR and Cardiff, and then you can go back. Sheffield United, I think, in the early noughties, and Notts County took up Huddersfield. These are not all Championship, but just loads and loads of promotions on his CV. Obviously, very charismatic, very popular figure, but out he goes from Boro. So Warnock had been parachuted in, essentially, to wind the story back. So Boro went up with Aitor Karanka, spent one season in the Premier League, relegated down, and sorry to make it all about money, but I'm afraid football is often all about money. So 2 years of the parachute payments. And I suppose the biggest mistake they made was Gary Monk in that would have been 17-18 season. Hopefully I'm getting my years right. A lot of Championship years are processing in my brain. So Gary Monk came in, and that was when they did drop a lot of money. That was the Assombalonga transfer window. And it just didn't work out, did it? And Monk was gone by, I think, November, December time. And Steve Gibson wanted to go with Tony Pulis. Boro lost in the playoffs, didn't they? In 17-18. Yeah, I was there for the second leg against Villa. And maybe that was the chance, wasn't it? They had Adama Traore, Assombalonga, as we mentioned, Patrick Bamford, and lots of sort of experience, long in the tooth Championship players, maybe on quite high salaries, that had been there, done it, but couldn't get Boro up. The next season, Pulis, horrible run, wasn't it, at the end of the season? And they dropped out of the playoff positions. In deference to Tony Pulis and to Middlesbrough, that was one of the hardest championship seasons. Remember, the parachute teams all got pushed down by Norwich, Sheffield United and Leeds, all having brilliant seasons. And then you also had Derby going for it that season with Lampard, Tamori, Mount, and who was the other loanee Derby had? I can't remember. Harry Wilson. They had 3 really good loanees, didn't they, that season? And Boro were the victim. They got pushed down into 7th spot. And Mr. Pulis went, and the plan was then, without the parachute money, to go with the youngsters, go with Jonathan Woodgate, a brilliant player, reputation as a coach as well. And it just didn't work out. And say what you like. Look, a lot of managers struggle to follow a manager that plays kind of rudimentary football and then change the style. We've seen it wherever Mick McCarthy's been. Whoever follows really then struggles to, get those players doing different stuff. And look, you can say that for Woodgate. You can say the parachute money going and, the new broom, which has to sweep clear, doesn't it, once that money's gone. But it didn't work out. And I'm trying to recall exactly where they were. I think they just dropped, or they just maybe come out of the relegation zone going into lockdown. But when they came out, I think Woodgate had a couple more games. And then Warnock was parachuted in, so to speak. Of course, he took them away from the bottom of the table. He had the whole of the 2020-21 season there, Warnock. Finished 10th place, 64 points, 13 off the playoffs. Is it fair? Immediately, you see the name Warnock and you judge whoever he's managing in relation to where they are with the playoffs. I don't know if that's fair. I always talk about the influence of parachute money and Boro in their second season then without it, and they've moved up the table. I think then is when do you expect them to kick on? And again, talking of parachute teams, the door does appear to be open this season. Obviously, Norwich and Watford, they're gone. They would have had parachute payments, but they both got promoted. Swansea and Stoke, theirs have now run out. Huddersfield, we know that kind of went to finance the takeover a couple of years ago. So it feels like the door's open this season. And lots of teams are going to be looking at 4th, 5th and 6th, maybe underneath Bournemouth, Fulham and West Brom. And yeah, Middlesbrough haven't quite moved forward. There's been some kind of ideas here about some resistance between Neil Warnock and Kieran Scott. It's been a long morning already, but there've been some kind of questions about the presence of a head of football, Kieran Scott, who was brought in at the start of the season. And look, we know how old school Warnock is. He probably wants to recruit his own players and use his eye test, and it's worked for him for decades. So we'd heard whispers of the tensions there, and then you looked at the transfer dealings and the likes of Sporar, Payero coming in, sort of exotic names. I mean, it's not necessarily fair to say that they're not Warnock players. He's dealt with flair players in his past before. You think of the likes of Fowler and maybe Michael Tong at Sheffield United, obviously Tarapt at QPR as well, Hoylett, Mendes Lang, even Tomlin at Cardiff. But I don't know, there was a bit of a sense of, are these players? Because then they were signed and weren't necessarily going straight into the team. I don't know. I'm speculating there and maybe putting 2 and 2 together and making 100. But it was very inconsistent. You couldn't necessarily see the joined up thinking and the trend forward for Boro, and maybe some pushing and some pulling in different directions. Who knows? Again, I'm speculating. Obviously, you look at the likes of Crooks from Rotherham and Ikpeazu from Wickham. Bamba from Cardiff. As classic Neil Warnock signing. So, yeah, maybe I'm barking up the wrong tree, but there obviously has to be a synergy between a head of football and a manager, and perhaps there wasn't. And Warnock's at the point now where he's so long in the tooth. We all know he just doesn't care, does he? If he's not happy with what he's doing, he will take his bum bag and his charisma and all his witticisms and funny one-liners and go and work somewhere else. And that's the decision that's been made 17 games into this championship season with Boro. 4 points, but again, a lot of traffic off those playoff places. Quickly on Warnock, you wouldn't be surprised if he did pop up at another club. You just can imagine him working until he drops, can't you? So we'll see what happens. He's an incredible character and incredible to have round the championship. And I'm sure he can charm and seduce an owner into giving him another job at that level if he wants one. We will see, and of course, good luck to him. I'm sure he won't want to go out this way, but there we go. So, yeah, get your thoughts in on Warnock and, right decision, wrong decision, etc., and where you think he might end up. And then the next part of the story is obviously Chris Wilder and those links, which do seem pretty strong. So let's assume that is going to happen and Chris Wilder comes in to Middlesbrough. We kind of wondered where Wilder would pop up, really, because his reputation just went from 0 to 100 so fast. It's kind of hard to know where to pitch him, and it went from 0 to 100 and then back down again as well. Of course, Wilder, where was he? Oxford, Northampton, Sheffield United, and then, of course, the Sheffield United story we all know. He was a player, he was a fan. They'd had struggles there. I think Nigel Adkins was their last manager. They're down there, maybe like 9th or 11th or something in League One. In he goes, and it was honestly like someone was playing Football Manager, but resetting the game every time they lost. It was such an incredible rise. 100 points in League One to win League One for Wilder. And then I think it was 9th place in the Championship the first season, but somewhere thereabouts in the middle. But you could see something was happening, and we saw the 3-5-2 and Basham, Egan and O'Connell, then Bill and Stevens and Baldock down the sides, and the rest is history, and they finish in second place. And Middlesbrough fans, again, will know all about that 18-19 season because they were one of the teams that pushed Middlesbrough down and made it such a hard season for the traditional big boys and the well-funded clubs at the top of the table. Then he finished 9th in the Premier League. So at that point, Chris Wilder is the hot new thing in English football. An English manager who's taken a sort of traditionally big club that's kind of ailing all the way up the leagues, and tactically innovative as well with Alan Neil, good on set plays, good defensively, but brave. If you watch Sheffield United in the Championship, and I often use this as an argument against people to debunk the idea that a formation is defensive. I don't believe a formation is attacking or defensive. I believe you have a team shape and you have a philosophy, and your philosophy is either defensive or attacking, and your formation isn't, because people tell me, back 3-5 at the back is defensive. No, it's not. Go and watch some videos of Chris Wilder's Sheffield United with John Egan on his own at the back and literally everybody else attacking, and the centre-half on the edge of the box and the wing-back going inside or outside. It was thrilling football, but of course it all came a cropper for Wilder in the Premier League. Atrocious start, wasn't it? Last season, I think they lost like 18 in a row or something, or didn't. It was like 18 and 1 draw in the first 19 or something like that, and the incredible rise. They say this about populations and economies, that a period of vast growth is always followed by a crash, and sadly for Wilder, it was. So we wondered where he was going to pop up. There were big links with West Brom. Obviously, they went for Valérien Ismaël. Bournemouth went for, I was going to say Eddie Howe then. Bournemouth went for Scott Parker. didn't they? And Fulham went for Marco Silva. So all the two Year 1 parachute teams. Sorry, and Sheffield United was the other one. He was not going to go back to Sheffield United, was he? Went for Jukanovic. All of those jobs were open, and Bournemouth, a Year 2 parachute team, all went. And it's kind of, where's the next best thing? You want a sort of big club that maybe doesn't have the parachutes, or you wait. And looks like Wilder's going to go in. I think Middlesbrough, it's a big club that doesn't have the parachute money now. It's managers pitch themselves. Those are the jobs that they want, where they can hopefully, maybe attract a slightly better squad of players, or standard of players, certainly. But so we think Wilder's going to go in at Middlesbrough here. What do we expect? Again, hugely charismatic ex-Sheffield United manager like Neil Warnock. You would assume it will be the 3-5-2. It will be, unless he's going to do a Pep Guardiola and tear it up and innovate something new. But what we know about Wilder is the 3-5-2, and players bombing forward, attacking football, brave football. A front two and a number 10 off them in the main in the Championship as well. So we will see whether Wilder does indeed pop up there. And generally, over his career, apart from that first half of last season with Sheffield United, his points per game and his win rate is fantastically high. So the question is, can he bounce back? If he does bounce back to anything like he has been, particularly in the Sheffield United days and in the Championship, a very, very dominant coach in those 2 seasons, did a stupendously good job, really, frankly, then you would think Middlesbrough have themselves a very good manager. Doesn't have parachute payments, but he didn't have them at Sheffield United, and they went all the way through, didn't they? So could be an interesting one. You'd expect he'd take Alan Neil back with him as the assistant, and it'll all look very familiar to Championship fans, won't it? Wilder up in the north part of the country in the Championship, and it'd be lovely to have him back if indeed that does happen. So let me know your thoughts on Wilder possibly coming in there. We think that's very, very likely as the other part of the story here. So get your comments in. Warnock out, mutual consent. We know that. Get your thoughts in on Warnock's tenure at Boro, and also what about him in the future? Wilder in. Let me know your thoughts on that. Obviously, that isn't confirmed, and we are in the realms of lies, damned lies, and speculation here. So, the last 8 minutes of this video could become irrelevant, but they could be very pertinent. And at the moment, that's what we're discussing. So do get your comments in on the possible return of Chris Wilder to Championship football. There we go. All change at Boro, we think. And I'd love your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for watching. Over and out.